We're live.
We're live from the studio. Well, welcome and thank you to Jason for agreeing and being so gracious to do these developer updates with us.
My pleasure.
For those of you new that haven't attended or listened to a developer update previously, we do these once a quarter. It's a great opportunity for us to learn what's new in the development of Jasper. And we appreciate all of those who have submitted questions. We've taken those into today's kind of topics and agenda and look forward to being able to deliver responses. And if you have additional questions, we're happy to see those too from residents afterwards.
I have a question, Marlo.
Yes.
Do residents get basically called, like an email goes out requesting questions, or can they provide questions as they come up, or how do you manage that?
That's a really good question. Both. So we take all the time, 24/7 community concerns. So if a resident says, I have a question about when Jasper Parkway South is going to be completed, they can submit it at any time. In preparation for these quarterly developer updates, we do submit a call to action and say, if you do have questions related specifically to the development, now's your time. If you haven't already done so, get them in. And so we use that as another opportunity to collect those in preparation for these.
And then I don't have any feel for this, the participation along those lines, and then understanding that we're doing quarterly podcasts. This one is not a videoed podcast, and maybe they end up being a podcast and videoed as we evolve here. But generally speaking, do folks understand that this is going on and they're responsive and engaged?
Absolutely. I would say out of all of the type of offerings that we provide for residents, this is one that's highly sought after, highly engaged. We have many, I think at least 12 questions that came in. We have people asking us, when is the next one going to happen? Even our builder partners are interested in getting this recording too, because they appreciate it to be able to share it to prospects who they might be meeting with. So it's definitely something that has value and that definitely residents are excited to hear. And to your point, I'd be interested to see how it's going to work doing this as an audio versus video, and we'll put some overlay of photos and maps and things that come up relevant to the topics. But I think overall it's also a benefit to have it as a recording, because then people can go back to it. So one of the things that I'll share is we have 3 recordings that we've already done in 2023. We'll share those when we share this recording, because then it's an opportunity for folks to go back and maybe hear more about a topic that you've already addressed, like water. And one of the things that we've realized is as we have new residents coming in, much of their questions sometimes we've already addressed, right? So we're going to try to continue to balance that of, we don't want to miss an opportunity to answer a question that comes across our plate. But if we've already addressed it, we can utilize these recordings as a resource to go back and share those.
We've built a library. It's a little library presently. Mm-hmm. It'll continue to expand as time goes on, and that's a nice feature. And then the other thing that I like personally, because I do like podcasts personally, is I can listen whenever I'd like to listen to a podcast. I'm not required to make it to a meeting, or I'm not a great sleeper, so I listen or watch stuff, when most folks are sleeping. But it's super convenient that way. Folks don't have to rearrange their schedule to be able to attend and be heard.
Right. And we have evidence that supports that too, right? We saw when we did this in November and we did it in person, numbers were probably not maybe what we anticipated, with people being there and schedules and all the things that you just talked about. So I think having it available so that people can tune in when they have the time or when that question kind of strikes them is a true benefit.
Convenience is nice for all of us.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm ready. What's like your toughest question coming out of the gate?
It's a really good question. I don't know that there's any tough questions or things that I don't think that you're well equipped to answer. I think we do a good job every quarter of kind of phrasing these to, what's topical. I think this is just kind of what's new. We really haven't addressed the community since November about what's really happening. And as I'm sure you'll share, there's a lot happening and underway in the development as we talk phase 3 and phase 5. So I think those are really the burning questions. And then everybody wants to know, when's Jasper Parkway South going to be completed so that they can get to Highway 69? So maybe we start there.
Residents are not the only one would really like to know the answer to that question that the town of Prescott Valley regularly asks. And so the update on the completion of Jasper Parkway South, we anticipate the end of summer. It's not that anything is complicated, but we're building a phase of lots, and the phase of lots require underground utilities. And so although the roadway itself is visible presently because it's been mass graded and it might look to some like it's ready to be paved, we still have to get water and sewer underneath that road. That's an ongoing process. Pipe is going in the ground as we speak. Later on, we'll have power as well as gas that'll move in. We have gas in that phase. Yeah, that was my recollection too, natural gas. And so as we complete the underground utility installation, what we'll end up doing is paving from Jasper, basically from the roundabout to the highway. I think it'll probably work backwards. The pavement will probably start at Highway 69 and head to the north to the roundabout. But it doesn't make sense economically to do the paving in two different actions or phases. So we'll just knock it all out at one time. The contractor can mob in. Hopefully the cost of oil will be down. Always a limiting factor. And I guess a little background for that comment. We have estimates on what the road costs. We don't actually know what the road costs until we first buy out the contract. That's developer jargon to say, okay, we've signed with this asphalt and paving contractor at a certain price. And then surely you don't know what you paid until you've completed the job. And completion in this case means Jasper Parkway South, 100% of it, whether it's within Jasper or off-site, is a town of Prescott Valley right-of-way. So some folks may understand and others probably don't. When we build roads, we build them to the town of Prescott Valley specs and standards. There are multiple inspections throughout the lifetime of building that road. And in the end, we get a sign off from the town of Prescott Valley that says, okay, you've done your job. You've followed our rules and specs. We agree. Everything from the depth of the asphalt to the drainage is proper. And we then dedicate that right of way over to the town of Prescott Valley so that they take ownership of that road. Why would someone in Jasper care about that? Well, as time goes on, especially in my career, 27 years in Yavapai County now, municipalities did not used to like private roads. They wanted connectivity in and around and through their municipality, which makes sense. So that if you live in, for instance, Granville, you could use a public road in Jasper to get to a state highway, Highway 69. As time has gone on, the cost of maintaining roads has increased. In my world, I don't ever see a time, because it just hasn't happened, where things get cheaper. So the city government, the town government in this case, conversations about, hey, if you build private roads, you could build them to a different standard. What that is an offer for the developer to take on the maintenance of the road long term. The issue with that is if you live in Jasper and you live in an area that has private roads, we don't have any currently.
Right.
In the future, we might have a gated portion of Jasper that might have private roads. Well, the residents that are within that neighborhood are then on the hook to pay for things. And I think that it was really well demonstrated, in my opinion, at our annual meeting there in November, December, whenever it occurred, that folks are concerned about rising costs.
Right.
Their preference, and I get it, is that their association dues would stay the same or maybe even go down over the course of time. Our advantage is that Jasper is very large. We have big scale. So over the course of time, the pro rata share, the amount of monthly expense attributable to each resident should hopefully go down. That's what we hope to see.
Yeah.
Now, in periods of time when we have inflation, et cetera, it doesn't matter if we're at Chick-fil-A or dealing with an HOA, nothing is getting cheaper. Hopefully that trend is flattening out. I don't know about your grocery bill, but with 4 kids, mine is very large. And so we'll see how it goes. But private roads and why we build private roads, in my opinion, create a benefit for the residents of the subdivision. If I'm a member of a municipality, to be able to go wherever I want to go on a public street, certainly something nice, and it's customary. It's normal in our country. Into the future, I think what we're going to see is more push from government for us to build private roads because they do not want the long-term liability of maintaining that infrastructure. But presently in Jasper, our roads are public. They're public on purpose. And the answer to the question would be, my estimate is late summer, we'll finish Jasper Parkway South. And I can assure everybody who is listening to this that we probably want that road and the connection to Highway 69 more than anybody. We see it from a marketing perspective as very, very important, a convenience perspective. But for folks to be able to get out to the highway, if you want to go to Sprouts and shop, is a big deal. The other thing I think that's going to be nice is that road is going to be a paved public street going through open space. So some folks may or may not know in Jasper, but in December, the town of Prescott Valley, the city of Prescott, and Yavapai County banded together with seed money from the state, which is really, it was actually COVID money from the feds left over that the state had to dole out. And the 3 governments mentioned made application to the state and said, hey, we'd like a chunk of this money to buy Glassford Hill and preserve it as open space. And the legislature approved it. I don't remember the exact total that we received from the state, but it created a very nice opportunity because the local governments could purchase Glassford Hill, retire it, any possibility of development, which, if I was asked that question, I would say, well, you can't develop it. It's easy. However, folks worry about that. They think, well, Donald Trump's going to go build a skyscraper on the top of Glassford Hill, right? It's kind of how our politics are these days. And so bottom line is that in December, the Glassford Hill was purchased from State Land Department, which was the previous owner, and is now owned by our local governments and is open space permanently. There's no question. And so our Jasper Parkway South will go through something like 1.6 miles of open space. Should be a nice drive. And then the thing I would, I guess, mention in closing is we will have a monument sign that would be opposite the Stone Ridge Monument sign at the traffic light on Highway 69. So on the other side of the street from Culver's, that will say Jasper. So we'll actually have a monument sign and directional mini monument signs so that people can find Jasper,
Right.
Which is going to be beneficial and nice for folks that already live here. That road is costing us about $11 million. I'm told that monument sign might be $250,000, and I don't believe it. If I had to guess, we're going to spend $500,000 on signage in total. The reason that we do that, though, is, again, our scale is large. And so we're making an investment in our future.
Right.
And there's a dual benefit. Our residents will benefit from those dollars. They've already paid into the system, so to speak, right? Some might ask, well, what happens with the HOA? Who's going to own your signage? Well, the HOA is going to own the signage at some point in the future. So we try very hard, actually, to create very low drag or low expense monumentation like in our roundabouts presently. Lots of concrete and steel there. Yes, there might be a reason to stain or change the color of that concrete someday, to spruce it up, so to speak. But beyond that, zero escape basically as far as water consumption goes, minimal electric need for our signage. And we are always mindful to try to build things that are efficient for us to pay for and manage, because right now we subsidize the HOA. I can't even remember, maybe $500,000 this year. And in the future, residents will be again concerned about the cost of from electricity to the water bill to maintaining and the landscape maintenance package, right? And so we try to take all of this into consideration as we're designing to make capital improvements that look good, serve their purpose well. They're utilitarian in nature, and they work, and they don't cost a bunch of money into the future. That's always our goal.
Well, I think what you just demonstrated is this plan for, the road, the monument sign, is all synonymous with the way that you've done development previously. There's thought, there's intentionality, there's strategy.
I'll be honest with you. I'm going to cut you off on that one, because I'm going to tell you that in 27 years, there's some stuff I've done that I'm not proud of. Okay. And I'm going to give, Stuart Swanson is a blessing in all of our lives. This is the first time in my career. I don't want to say that we don't have a budget, but we are expected to do things right the first time and be conscious of the dollars that we're spending, but don't sacrifice quality for cost.
Got it.
And so it's created a very unique situation. And some of those situations we're still working through, like grass.
Sure.
Right? Like we said, okay, we'd love to have a soft green grand entry into Jasper up to J Club. That was the vision on paper 6 years ago.
Sure.
Well, how's our grass doing?
Not great.
No. I mean, so the folks that are starting to get used to me or know me a little bit, it's like, you see what you get what you see from me. And the bottom line is our grass has been a fail. Like, I'm not planting grass ever again. Right. In my career.
Saying that. Yes.
And so what does that mean? You start to look at artificial grass, which is much more expensive on the front end, cheaper long-term, cheaper for the HOA long-term. And so really the question in my mind, which I think we're maybe on the fourth attempt to get grass to grow. I'm not even going to say decently. So you're not embarrassed, or I'm not embarrassed. And so we've been shrinking grass. We've torn out grass twice to date.
Okay.
We've replaced it with rock and shrubs and bushes. We would like to still have some green, right? We want it to still look as best we can possibly make it look, but also function well.
Yeah.
And so I think where we're headed is we're probably going to tear up more grass, keep shrinking it, and then down by the model park in phase 1, where things are flat and you can use that area, right?
More amenable.
Like you right. Yeah. I mean, someone might say, "Oh, no one's going to kick a soccer ball on there, Geesey, and my kid will get run over by a car." Well, that's true, but I mean, every day around this country, people make decisions.
Sure.
And so that flat piece of grass there looks to me like it wants to be artificial.
Yeah.
And I'm just anticipating the objection. I should sell cars, right? We have this giant field at our club.
Right.
What are we going to do with that? Now, that grass did fine last year. Hopefully it does well this summer. We're going to find out. It was planted completely differently because we're experimenting to try to get it right. I'll speak for myself. It's just a personal opinion. But if you said, hey, you can go hang out on a nice piece of grass with your kids and kick a ball around or throw a football, I would much rather be on grass than on turf.
True.
What is that long term? I don't know.
Yeah.
As I stated in the annual meeting, there's plenty of experimenting going on right now. And will continue to be.
you've never hidden the fact that you're transparent, which I've always appreciated, and that this is an experiment. And I'm also going to challenge, and you have plans, but what I appreciate and you're thoughtful and intentional is that you know when to pivot. And you just gave a lot of really positive examples of how you've done that. And you've answered a lot of my questions already too.
Well, we're just trying to be efficient, I guess, Marlo, but I'm just talking about it off the top of my head. And I definitely get it around here that we have folks that they're proud to live here.
This is where they want to live till they go in the grave.
So they're really curious, like, how did this happen?
Right.
Why do you do what you do? Is this going to continue to happen? Mm-hmm. I hear an undertone in questions sometimes where folks are scared that, I'll put it to you this way, we're going to cheapen the product up.
Right.
Again, back to Stuart, quality is absolutely the expectation. I would be the guy personally. I'll raise my hand and say, man, I get nervous about this more than he does as far as costs go. We live in a marketplace where, I can vividly remember coming out of the Great Recession that, it started this bad. A house had to be under $300,000 to sell it. Then it was 400, then it was 500, then it was 600. Where are we at now? 8, 9?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is both good and bad.
Sure.
It's the economy is a free market. It moves up, it moves down. Sometimes it moves sideways. Sometimes it plateaus. You just don't know how things are going to go into the future. The point would be that our expectation of the quality that we want to put in the ground and make available for the next customer we haven't met hasn't changed since day one. Mm-hmm. This Jasper was a risk. I was told that there were certain folks that might be in close proximity to Jasper would buy our project from the bank, which in my world, that's insulting, right? That means you swung and you missed and you're an idiot. Well, we don't have to deal with that anymore.
No.
And so moving forward, the innovations and that a resident or the new buyer will see, we have a different paint palette for phase 2. Mm-hmm. Back to experimenting, so Stuart likes brighter colors. This is something I deal with, and so we have a different paint palette. So far, the houses look great. Very happy with the way they look because it's difficult. You're looking at a computer screen or a paint chip or a swatch.
Totally different.
And then they paint it, and now it's at 5,000 feet in natural light, and you go, ooh, that's ugly. Or, wow, that's a nice color. I thought that one was going to be ugly. You don't know until you actually put it on the wall.
Right.
Stucco takes paint color different than a wood product or a fake wood product.
Right.
Who knows? So the point, though, is that I hear not, straight up, not, hey, I'm worried that you're going to lighten the load around here and it's not going to look as good and therefore not be as valuable.
Right.
That's not our goal at all.
Right.
We'll continue to push the market. We're basically a market maker, meaning there was nothing like Jasper in the town of Prescott Valley until we built it. That's why people were making fun of us. And so as we move through it, they will see evolution in elevations. But the challenge with it is you don't want to introduce something that clashes with what you already have. You want it to be harmonious and stitched together. And so we'll constantly be working on whether it's a roof line or a paint palette or design criteria for our builders to keep, I want to say raising the bar. I don't think that's super accurate. I think keep pushing into our future where we want to continue to put out the best product we possibly can at the best price point,
right?
Relatively speaking, because it's not cheap, possible in the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, this is a great segue. You're teeing me up really well for these topics and questions. Speaking of your commitment to quality and intentionality around the product, is this a good time to introduce to the homeowners eco homes and the plan as it relates to 3, 5, and future phases down the road of what homeowners can expect with that new builder coming in?
Sure. Eco Homes is a new builder as of last year, not in Jasper, meaning in the marketplace. The first test tube, I suppose we'll call it, proof of concept
Sure.
is going on in front of Pronghorn Ranch over off of 89A. And eco is definitely thought of as there's a huge need. I'm going to just say in the heart of the lineup. What does that mean? Where the majority of buyers basically can afford the product, right? The widest, deepest pool of buyers available in a major metro area. That's generally called entry level.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we really don't have entry level,
Right.
Because we don't have many working couples, families, what have you. Mm-hmm. About 85% of our customers are pre-retirees or retirees as long as I've been in Central Yavapai County. So what we really have are different. We have kind of the same, demographically speaking, we have the same buyer over and over again. Some of them have more money. Some of them have more ego. Some of them come from the Midwest and they just want a house. Mm-hmm. Others might come from major metro areas in Northeast Scottsdale and they want a fancy house. Mm-hmm. They want to wow their relations or their friends when you come over for a barbecue. Other folks just want a great place to live and,
Quality life.
Sleep, quality of life. It's safe, mm-hmm. trail system, etc. So eco, what I'm saying is it's really not entry level. The widest, deepest pool of buyers would be entry level from a conventional way of speaking to it in Arizona real estate up through the middle of the market. So to help folks, what does that mean? So, I don't know that you can build and sell a new house for $400,000. I don't think it's possible mathematically. Maybe at $500,000 right now. Mm-hmm. You could get a house for, around $500,000. So there's your entry level. So first things first, Buckeye's entry level is probably still $250,000, right? Mm-hmm. It's a totally different thing. And so then the middle of the market, based on what I'm seeing, it's $500,000 to $900,000. So eco, the vision is for eco to fit in that market segment. And the reason that that's important to me personally is it allows me to make a business plan, mm-hmm. and actually execute it. Why? If I'm dealing with public home builders, where as we sit here today, March 6th or whatever it is, I can go make deals with 4 or 5 public home builders mm-hmm. in Jasper. And someone might say, well, gee, what's a public home builder? Well, that might be D.R. Horton. Lennar is the largest production publicly owned home builder in the state of Arizona. Toll Brothers. There's, I think, something on the order of 25 different public production home builders in Metro Phoenix. Wow. Because it's one of the largest production home markets in the country.
Makes sense.
So what are we after? Selfishly, what I'm after is a business plan. Because if I have to get the approval of a division president, a regional president, and then the senior real estate committee, which might be in Pennsylvania in the case of Toll, or Dallas-Fort Worth in the case of D.R. Horton, mm-hmm. it just never happens.
Right.
And so it's a pain in the neck. All of that costs us time and money to pursue. There's the financing aspects that you have to mate up with the sales aspects in order to have a phase. Mm-hmm. Well, with eco, we have the ability to control our own destiny. And that's exactly what we're after. And so this does not mean that Mandalay Homes is going away. This does not mean that Capstone Homes is going away. This doesn't mean that we won't add another builder if we like them. Sure. But if I can sell in my head, generally speaking, let's say that Jasper has a 20-year life as we sit here today. So for the next 20 years, if I can generally sell 50% of any phase to eco homes, I have a phase I can go build. Our teams can go to work. We can engineer it. We can do construction management. We can finance it. Boom, boom, boom. There's a new phase.
Yeah.
If I was reliant upon outsiders they all want to play in our sandbox, but to actually close and do what they say they're going to do,
right?
Jasper would probably take 40 years.
Right.
It's just a pain in the butt. And I hope the public home builders listen to this, because there probably isn't going to be one of them that ever will. I don't really like them. They don't really like me. And that's okay. And so what we've had to do is work around that. Just the fact that from a public home builder's perspective, it depends on how tough they're negotiating, but we might be referred to as a secondary market. We might be referred to as a tertiary marketplace. The point they're trying to make is we're the 800-pound gorilla. You don't know what you're doing or what you're talking about, and we're going to tell you what we're willing to pay for your product.
Right.
Well, selfishly, I'm a little jealous. The 14th year is starting here shortly. I have a pretty good feel for what we've created. I absolutely know how hard it was, and we're not interested in making deals with them. Maybe someday they'll change their attitude and I'll change mine. But at the present time, that's the genesis or the origination story for eco. Why are you doing what you're doing? If we look next door, not to draw a parallel as far as the way we're going to go about it, but as far as the business aspects, Joe Contadino, Universal Homes, has served as a developer builder in Granville since the beginning through to the end. He has done that purposely. He was supposed to be the CEO of Del Webb and a corporate guy after he sold his first private home building business to Del Webb. What he learned is that you couldn't get stuff done.
Right.
And so none of this is original thought. It's just a series. It's years worth of listening and trying different things, failing.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, I got to solve for this for myself. And that's why we put together Eco Builders to go along with our two builder partners presently. And we'll see how it plays out.
What's clear to me is just a really proactive way that you're controlling your own destiny and doing it with people you want to work with and people that, understand the vision, what you're trying to accomplish. And that, again, this idea of thoughtfulness of the builder partners that you've engaged in this project, I think is really clear too, which brings me to my next question. So now you have Eco, you have Mandalay, you have Capstone, right? How do you make sure everybody plays nice? How do you ensure there's consistency in the product? How do you determine who gets what, especially as you have phase 3 coming online, phase 5 shortly after that, or even concurrently with phase 3? So talk to me a little bit about that.
So now you're digging into the gossip, right? So
not intentionally necessarily.
It's fine. I can keep it at a high level and stay away from the gossip. So what happens in my world every time when there's a new phase, there's a massive wrestling match over who gets what. I want these. Everybody wants the best lots,
sure.
Right? I'll take those, but you have to give me some of these. There's a massive negotiation that goes on, and it's probably healthy and fine, right? It's a bit cumbersome. Sometimes I get wore out, but that's practically what happens every time. So as we sit here today, from my personal perspective, Mandalay Homes took a massive risk on us on the front end, or Jasper would not have been born. Mm-hmm. Capstone Homes came in probably 6 months later, and we pushed them into the high end of the marketplace, exactly where no builder wanted to go. Why? Well, everybody wants to get back into that widest, deepest pool. Mm-hmm. That's a safe spot, right? Well, Capstone, Brian Rote and their principal said, I'll take that risk. Frankly, Capstone was taking on water in Jasper pretty heavily until we broke ground on J Club. Mm-hmm. So on the high end with Capstone, what that looked like, the deal, if you will, you guys take these higher end lots. We think that the town of Prescott Valley will support these values. There was really no data. That was an opinion. In response to you taking a risk, we will build the clubhouse. So routinely what happens in the world of master plan subdivisions is there's a promise for a clubhouse for 5 to 10 years while the developer is paying for the off-site expenses like Jasper Parkway South, like a 2 million gallon storage tank that's been built. I mean, there's massive spending to start a subdivision, not only within the subdivision, but outside of the subdivision to support it.
Got it.
So, you routinely see developers write a check with their mouth that their butt can't cash because they go, holy cow, we didn't expect that Jasper Parkway was going to cost. Jasper Parkway was a $5 million estimate. Turns out it's $11 million. I mean, it just goes on and on. This is the nature of the beast. This is also why the rising price of these home values make it okay, right? So that doesn't always happen either, but that's pretty technical stuff. So back to it. We said, we'll build the club. So we're getting ready to kick it off and COVID hits and we shut it down. And so we got done with COVID and I think it was about $1.5 million more when we could actually get back after it. And then we added stuff to it. And, next thing you know, we spent a whole lot of money. Why do we do it? We said we would. And we're building a subdivision for the next 20 years, right? It's a long-term business plan. It's not short-term. It's not year to year. And so I'm having trouble. My age is showing up. So what was the question here? Builder partners.
Eco
caps. Oh, who gets what lots?
Who gets what?
I got it. So phase 3 is coming up. I'll get specific for you now. I'll get back on task. So phase 3 is coming up. First lot delivery we expect to be at the end of the summer when we think Jasper Parkway South will be completed. That lot grouping, which is about 90 lots, is right now Capstone will be the one acquiring those lots. After that, we get into Eco and Mandalay. The finished lots in phase 3 deliver probably August, November, and February of 2025 is how they'll get delivered. And the builders will buy them. The builders pre-contract. Then we have to keep up our end of the bargain, right? And actually build it. And then they close once the lots are finished.
Right.
And so, moving forward, the reality is that after we get done with each wrestling match, depending on what's going on in the marketplace, it's pretty obvious who's buying which grouping of lots based on timing.
Right.
Who needs them? It's really what it boils down to.
Right. Who's ready? The
builder business plan is all about absorption and burn rates. And they're constantly projecting how many lots, how many house starts until I run out of inventory. And what we're constantly trying to do on the development end is not have our builders run out of inventory and it to build on. And if we do, we want that to be a very short duration. You don't want to stall out and lose momentum.
Right.
We don't want that as the developer, and the builders don't want it either. And frankly, the town of Prescott Valley doesn't want it either because of the sales tax revenue.
Right.
It's a big deal. So then that takes me into phase 5. So our target to start phase 5 is October of 2024.
Okay.
Phase 3, I'm gonna refer to as a premium phase. View premiums, proximity to the club, Jasper Parkway South completed. Now you can drive out to the highway. First time ever, we have a marketing window with a Jasper monument sign. The phase 3 stuff, forever views to the north, backs up to permanent open space. Those are really good lots, really good. Phase 5 would be to the north, and phase 5 is more just solid lot inventory. what we're always trying to do, and it's very difficult, we'll get better as time goes on because we catch up from these offsite expenses, et cetera. What we really want to be doing is delivering premium lots along with good lots as close to simultaneously as possible. What that allows us to do, what we're always shooting for, is a minimum of 3 product types. Really, we're shooting for 4.
Got it.
So we're messing with lot sizing right now because we look at pricing and go, gee, how can we get a more affordable unit into Jasper that looks good?
Right.
Well, think about a beach, right? You go rent a beach house. Those lots are somewhere between 35 and 50 feet wide, right? They have some depth to them. You could lean out your window and touch your neighbor's house, right? Why does that happen? Because the land's very expensive.
Right.
So our situation isn't like a beach in that we have land coming out of our ears. However, the cost to improve that land continues to go up. So the cost to improve it, the cost to build the unit, what we're constantly looking for is how do we, like if we could pick it, how do we keep a $500,000 offering alive in Jasper for as long as possible? A lot of people come in just because they go, man, that seems like a good deal in this marketplace. They won't buy it, but they'll buy in Jasper. They go, whoa, wait a minute. We like this capstone house over here for 1.5 mil. You know, that no offense, but the adage in my business is buyers are liars, right? I only have this much money and I got to decide today. You know, there's all kinds of negotiating that goes on. It actually makes it fun. It's fine. So we're messing with, experimenting again is what messing with means. Experimenting with different lot sizes and different locations to try to make the broadest offering, trying to have 4 product types
available
and also keep pricing down is not the right way to say it. To try to control pricing is a bad way to say it as well. It's all market driven. We don't get to decide these things. That's why I'm saying that. But we want it as low as possible. We see a different market segment as well. We see an older person, let's say someone who is 70, 75 years old, wants smaller square footage, wants it finished very well, needs a small backyard, not a big backyard, like a view, they're happy to pay for a location and something that lives well and is easy to maintain and easy to clean. We see an opportunity there. And I do believe as Phoenix continues to move forward, one of our huge advantages in Central Yavapai County for my whole career has been that we're a primary residence, but our underpinnings are that folks move here. This is where they live.
Right.
They have motor homes, they take vacations, whatever, but we're not Flagstaff. It's not a second home marketplace.
Data definitely, when we look at our annual survey from last year, certainly nailed that point, right? This is primary residencies for the large demographic of our residents. So I think you hit the nail on the head. Speaking to phase 5 and just thinking about further development going north, can you talk a little bit about roads and connectivity? Just because we have curious minds want to know, okay, so I can access Jasper now or down the road, summer 2024 through Jasper Parkway from Highway 69. What about Alcoma? What about further connectivity going north?
So let's start at the beginning. When we started the project, Santa Fe Loop didn't connect to our property line.
Right.
That was a bit of a thing we had to work through. And so we got that done. So there's our first connection. Our second connection to the outside world, if you will be Jasper Parkway South to Highway 69. The third connection you've mentioned is Alcoma through Granville, which will be built in conjunction with Phase 5. So we get to the end of Phase 5. Let's say that's by the second half of 2025. We'd have Santa Fe Loop, Jasper Parkway, and Alcoma complete. Next connection to the outside world will be Jasper Parkway to the north. Jasper Parkway ends up connecting to Dells Ranch Road in the Dells subdivision in Prescott to our west. Once that connection is made, Dells Ranch Road connects to the Granite Dells Parkway traffic interchange on Highway 89A.
Okay.
Taking it even further, on the west side of the Dells, we own, the project has no name yet. This would be like our Beamer or Mercedes project. It's going to be the expensive one. Let's just stick with Jasper Parkway because that'll make it. We're in Jasper. We're talking to Jasper folks.
Yep.
So Jasper Parkway is going to end up connecting from Highway 69 through the open space, which I believe is going to be, there's talk of a state park. I'm hoping it's not a state park because we don't need the state telling us what to do here, but we'll see. Then, sorry for the aside. All the way through Jasper, basically coming in Jasper's, which people can visibly see now, right? Coming in the southeast corner of Jasper and then working its way out of Jasper at the northwest corner, all the way through the Dells, through our project yet to be named. And then there is a point of connection in Walden Farms, and you will end up at the roundabout on Highway 89 at the Phippen Museum where the Constellation Trailhead is at presently. So this is a huge thing for a couple of reasons. One, we've planned for this connectivity now for at least a decade. In some cases we had to fight for it. In other cases we didn't. But we know where that road goes through our neighbor's property and ours. Next piece, cost. So contractually, meaning our development agreement on Jasper, we were bound to start construction of Jasper Parkway south to Highway 69 at some trigger point, some number of units.
Okay.
I don't recall it, but we hit it and we're in compliance with our development agreement because we're building it. We'll then go, and likely we're planning, and this is dang sure not a promise, but we're planning to make the connection to Dells ahead of the subdivision, meaning finished lots getting over there.
Okay.
Why would we do that? Well, there's two reasons. Number one, we own the commercial at the Granite Dells Parkway traffic interchange in Highway 89A. So if someone can live in Stone Ridge and take, in essence, what in a metro area and an inner beltway, from Stone Ridge to the Granite Dells Parkway traffic interchange, and there might be a new grocery store there or whatever else comes in, then that benefits us, and it benefits the person we're never going to meet, let alone people that live in Jasper.
Yeah.
So I can already see that some people will go, oh my God, you're going to have neighbors driving through our subdivision.
Correct.
That's right. It's a public road on purpose.
Going back to the beginning.
There's a reason that Jasper Parkway is 4 lanes. We don't need 4 lanes at Jasper Parkway right now. We built it on purpose so that it's cheaper than going back and retrofitting and adding a couple more lanes later. That's why Jasper Parkway is 4 lanes already. So the last piece of it then is our expensive project over on Granite Creek, north of the Point of Rocks. Connectivity again is valuable. And so what ends up happening, and if I had to throw a dart at it, I would say within 5 years, we will connect from the Phippen Museum roundabout on Highway 89 to Jasper Parkway South, because of course I'm partial. So right now it says Stone Ridge Drive, which the signs will say Stone Ridge Drive to the south to go to Stone Ridge. It'll say Jasper Parkway to the north to come into Jasper. And so I think that road right now has 4 names, right? That I'm referring to as Jasper Parkway all the way from 69 to 89. And I'm sure that there would be people that I would be offending right now that are our neighbors, but it's the easiest way to understand it.
Sure.
Because that road is probably 2, 4, 6. I'm going to say that's an 8 mile.
Wow.
Could be 8 to 10 mile loop. But you won't have to go on Glassford Hill Road for certain things. You won't have to get on 89A.
Right. Huge.
Big deal.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all of the future look into kind of plans. And one of the questions that came up from our residents, and I get unpredictability in market, and what you've been speaking to is, you're kind of ebbing and flowing, for lack of better terminology. So how do you see or predict your original vision of Jasper changing? Like, what does it look like 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road? Are you envisioning, I know you mentioned having maybe a gated community. Is there a plan for duplexes or further apartment complexes? What does that look like in terms of the greater vision down the road?
We're experimenting. I didn't finish the thought, but we think there's a lock and leave opportunity from Phoenix, smaller square footage again. And so I think that the evolution of Jasper as we head to the north is to try to keep pricing as favorable as possible. Our goal here is not to be selling $2 million homes in 10 years. Our goal is to keep our velocity up by offering a clean, well thought out, well finished subdivision at a good price. That's a relative comment. Who knows what it means, right? That's our goal. As far as gating goes, it's a weird place, right? So our subdivisions are all age targeted. We barely have anything age restricted.
True.
First subdivision that I was ever involved in Yavapai County is called the Gardens at Willow Creek. The resale, it's gated. The resale value is unbelievable because people wait in line to try to get into that project.
Sure.
I think, and I gained Stuart's agreement because Stuart, generally speaking, does not like gates. He's from the city. You don't have... I guess your exclusivity is more, it's vertical in the city, right? It's up,
makes sense,
higher in the building.
Right.
It's not cutting off access.
Right.
There's a security guy there in a lobby, and right. I mean, it come on. So but
same thing, right? Same concept to some degree, right?
Sure. So I think that there is an opportunity to add a gated portion and make it age restricted.
Okay.
Not age targeted. We have always had, I'm not a very technical guy. I call them the blue lots because they've been blue now for a decade. But on our western boundary, there is another wonderful premium. It's premium land, great view shed up to the Point of Rocks. I believe that we will have an age restricted and gated subdivision within a master plan subdivision. I'm going to go ahead and say that's probably 500 to 700 lots.
Okay.
That will bring questions about an amenity that would be private. So if we look at the flats and they put in their own small clubhouse and stuff, do they get access to the Jasper stuff? Is it only their stuff? How does it work?
Right.
I'll give you an example. Dog parks. Dog parks can be controversial. Dog parks can be very valuable. Someone who lives in the gate might want to come over to, quote unquote, our dog park,
right?
Because they get to socialize.
Sure.
Today we'd happily have them here. Someday when there's more folks, I don't know that that's the case. You have to think through these things, right? Because there's a cost to it,
right?
And we're a long ways from being overcrowded. But at some point we're going to hear complaints like, "Hey, it's too much. I don't like it." Other folks would happily sit there, like going to the beach. Right. Some people want to be alone at the beach. Other people will be in the mob.
Right.
Absolutely. So you can't keep everybody happy, but these are the things you try to anticipate to the best of your abilities and try to come up with solutions that not everybody's going to agree with, but at least they were rational, they make sense, and they're well-founded. So I think that we're going to evolve into an offering that is a subdivision within a master plan subdivision. And frankly, I look forward to it because based on my experience, I think it will do really, really well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think you touched on what really is kind of our last topic for our time together today, which is related to amenity. So you've created these really fantastic natural segues into my next topics, which I've appreciated. So we get a lot of questions from folks around amenity, and I know you already spoke to, down the road, future amenity. We'll look to see what those opportunities are. Can you speak a little bit more about what would impact decision and timing on current kind of amenity additions? We get requests pretty regularly for playground, basketball court. And so what would be kind of the way in which you'd be looking at decision making and timing as it relates to those requests for current amenities from residents?
For me personally, and we shared this information in our did we record that, the annual deal?
Yeah.
People watch that?
People have watched it, yep. And we're going to share it out again in relation to this one being released as well, so people can review it.
This is going to be a continual question, right?
Always.
And so you go, all right, the honest answer is second half of last year was not good. 11 rate increases over 2 years, basically. We get to the high end of that episode in the marketplace, and sales shrunk down to damn near nothing. We're now in a period of time where we have, it seems like we've achieved a plateau. It wouldn't matter if Ronald Reagan was running for president. I think it's rational to expect there's going to be a reduction in interest rates. It's a time-honored tactic to try to keep the incumbent in office. So that's not a political statement, because if it was a Republican in there, they'd be saying lower the interest rates, just like Democrat. So I'm going to say that I think we're going to have a good 2024 as it relates to sales. When we see those trends, and so far this year we've had 10 sales. This is Mandalay and Capstone combined in Jasper. 10 sales in January, 10 sales in February. So from a historical perspective, that's excellent. Generally speaking, January, February, December can be a weird one. December can actually be a really good month. But January, February, probably the two worst months of the year. July tends to be bad too. Everybody goes on vacation. So we're off to a good start. I don't quite trust it with the presidential election and all the craziness in our country right now. 60 days from now, I'll probably start to trust. I would start to trust it. So the answer is I need to see trends. We're seeing a trend where our contribution to the HOA and J Club are going down. Our deficit spending, if you will. Off the top of my head, we were like $1.5 million-ish maybe last year. And we're
cutting it at over half, right? Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm directly responsible for is paying those bills. We knew we were doing it to ourselves. In the meeting, I think I said something like, "I'm not asking for any mercy. These are the facts."
Right.
As we narrow our losses, our operating losses, then we can look into other things. It's very clear that. I'm going to call it small children equipment. I don't know if that's the right thing to call it. Jungle gym, whatever. It's at the top of the priority list. We hear you.
Right. It's also what did we say the last time we looked at numbers? $150,000 investment,
it's
right?
Not cheap.
Just off the bat.
I think shade was $70,000.
That's not even included is in that 150 number, right? And so it is quite an expense. And going back to, you'd want it to be something of quality.
You don't want it to fade in the sun. You don't want it to get too hot so Junior's buns don't get burnt on the slide. I mean, it's not when I grew up and it was all steel, and if you got burnt, then that was on you. Right. Right?
A little different.
It comes in the colors of lifesaver packs, right? It's fun and it's cool, and that's great. And I'm a father of four, so I get it. But, the budget, we've spent a serious amount of money here, and we're digesting, right? And we're making adjustments. And clearly, the jungle gym, I'll just call it, is is 1A on the wish list to be added. We also have a very popular bar and grill.
Right. Thank you for touching on that too.
So we're getting ready and in the process of adding a full liquor license, which is part of the process. We started obviously with beer and wine. Ariel's doing great as far as the quality of the food that she's put out, the way that our residents have gone out of their way. It's obvious, have gone out of their way to support her.
Absolutely.
That helps a lot because that business bleeds as well. We knew it would. And you go, so what's our biggest problem? There's folks who say, well, you don't have a jungle gym, Geesey. Okay. Well, when I look at it, I go, it's windy in the spring.
Right.
In northern Arizona. It's not a Jasper thing. That's just life. How can we improve the ability to serve food? Because our residents clearly, I think if you ask them, they'd say, we'll spend more money to keep it open, keep it going. That's great. We see that.
Right.
How can we improve that experience? We're looking at ways to do that.
Right.
Costs money. We don't need 2 pools.
No.
I can't tear it out and make it a skate park. So back to, living and learning on the fly. And as time goes on and more people populate Jasper, 2 pools won't be such a glaring swing and miss.
Right.
It'll actually get utilized.
Absolutely.
We're well aware of the fact that folks want the pools heated.
Right.
I heard at our annual meeting that folks really don't want to pay for that, though.
Right.
When you look at the surface area in our pools and yada yada, I'm going to tell you the shoulder season's $10,000 to $15,000 a month minimum just to heat the pools. Is that a priority or not? Right? I mean, we'll continue to listen to the community,
right,
and adjust accordingly. But my direct answer is the jungle gym for the families and improving our dining experience for Superb. Those are the 2 priorities very, very clearly.
Yeah.
We don't have to do much work on the jungle gym. We know it's going to cost $250,000, and we shopped and the cheap stuff was like $180,000. It's expensive. What is people say, well, how are you going to make things better for Superb? That costs money too.
Right.
So we'll see what we can put together as time goes on, and obviously you'll be the first one to let people know what we're up to because you'll be asking questions. And but those are the 2 priorities now. The dog park, we hear various things about our dog park, right? I'm not going to try to incite any riots here, but we're listening. We think we have a great dog park. We think by far the majority of our residents agree with us, and there's a few that don't, and that's just the way it's always going to be.
Right. Well, thank you for answering those questions and giving a little bit of context to how those decisions get made. I don't have any additional questions for you. Is there anything else burning that you want to share with residents that might be listening that's on your mind, or any last remaining thoughts?
No, I think I'm just fine. So far, so good would be my comment. Hopefully we have the year we're anticipating. It seems like it's started, and we can just keep pushing forward into our communal future. As time goes on, it's going to get better. Connectivity is going to improve things drastically. I guess the last thing is going to be, it's a question you haven't asked yet because nobody probably is paying any attention, but there is a trailhead in phase 3. Which will be graded, and people will say, well, what's that flat spot over there? That's probably at some point this summer. And I think it feels like we've been in final review on the buildings for the trailhead for quite some time. And so I'm expecting that we will have a design that is permitted by the town of Prescott Valley, and again, based on market trends. If we're seeing the sales that we're anticipating, if they materialize, then my goal will be to get that built sooner versus later. that amenity is more for outside folks that don't live at Jasper, for the public.
Sure.
And so the natural question is, people say, well, why? Part of our contract, our development agreement, we not only had to build more water storage capacity in Jasper Parkway South and Santa Fe and Alcoma, but we have a public park requirement, which part of that can be open space. We'll have a big credit because we're not going nearly as high up Glassford Hill as our property line goes.
Okay.
That'll be dedicated and added to the open space that was acquired, which will be nice. And so that the spending of private dollars for public benefit is required in the contract. And so my recall is that's 50, 60 stalls. It's a real trailhead. We're not going to have people parking like in Granville in the bar ditch where it's all muddy and stuff. We'll jazz the place up a little bit. Yeah.
And those buildings you referenced, restrooms, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. So basically an area to kind of gather, like a shaded Ramada area off the top of my head, a parking lot, a shaded area, water, you could fill up your water bottle or whatever, and then restrooms for the public.
Got it.
And again, what happens with that requirement is we pay to build it, and then we turn it over to the town of Prescott Valley for repair and maintenance.
Sure.
Because it's public.
Great. Thank you for that reminder too of that piece of the development agreement and what to expect with phase 3.
No problem.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.